Thank you, Natalia. So I'm Nokia's head of trend scouting, located in Silicon Valley, just down the road from Sean. And Sean, thank you so much for that overview of the entire landscape that we see. There is so much corporate activity that is going on out there in AR and VR, but at the same time, it's clear that we're not done yet. We're not there. The way that I think about the AR and VR world is all of the building blocks are now on the table, and it's a question of assembling them now to actually then to create the full-blown AR and VR world that we can all kind of imagine, but we're just still slightly short of. And Sean, you were kind enough to mention the role that 5G will play in this, and that is exactly right. And that's one of the things it's almost there, but it's not quite there yet. And let me explain. So first of all, at Nokia, we do not do consumer devices anymore. Just to make it clear, I am not here because Nokia will be launching some kind of, AR or VR headset. No. we provide, we are a business to business company, having sold our handset business to Microsoft. Some Nokia phones are still produced under license, but our main business today is selling network equipment to phone companies and other large enterprises that want to have a particular a network. And so for that, we're obviously deeply involved in the rollout of 5G around the world. And so let me explain why 5G is actually quite central to AR and VR. Now, every G, and of course, G stands for generation in this context, 2G, 3G, 4G, now 5G. Every G, to some extent, solves the problems of the G before it. And so if we look at today, because, well, every new technology solution in every category, it solves problems, but it always creates new problems. So, we're never done. Because if we look at the devices that we have today, our smartphones and our gaming consoles and our laptops and everything, they're wonderful. They can do so much. They have so much processing power. But the problems that processing power introduces are the chips, these magic chips that do everything. They cost a lot of money, they generate a lot of heat, and the battery life doesn't last very long. So many different industries, not just AR and VR, are simultaneously trying to solve the problem of how do we have end devices that are cheaper, cooler, and have the battery last a longer time. And the kind of the architecture to support all of these different things, because the industries that I'm talking about here, where this is most clear today, is robotics and drone control, AR and wireless VR, but also visual analytics and cloud gaming. All of these are trying to solve the same problem. And this is where 5G comes in, because if you have 5G, connecting you with, great bandwidth and very low latency to servers somewhere off of the end device, this lets you put a minimum possible processing chip on the end device. Oh, look, now it's cheaper, it's cooler, and the battery lasts much longer. That's fantastic. But by having 5G, with that low latency and high bandwidth, that enables you to connect to the rest of the processing, if you will, that is located somewhere off of the device in the network, either at the edge, which is referred to as, mobile edge computing, or MEC, you might have heard that term, or if the latency doesn't really matter all that much, it can be somewhere quite deep in the network. And so this is the thing that makes it possible, and will make it possible, to have augmented reality glasses that really are quite similar to just regular eyeglasses, because the computing has been taken off of the headset and put in the network. So now, but the reason that we're not surrounded with all of these devices today is that work, the physical work of understanding what processes need to go on that end device and what processes can go in the network, and how do we connect the two, and what's the minimum latency, what's the maximum latency. All of that research is still being done by groups like Nokia Bell Labs. Qualcomm is very forward-leaning in this space. They're really driving a lot of this. And pretty much, everybody in this space is working to figure this out right now. So So that's why 5G is key, and that's why, but that's also why we haven't seen very much yet, because it's still a work in progress. However, that said, as Natalia very correctly pointed out, one of the great things, one of the positive things about COVID is that it has really accelerated the takeoff of a lot of the technologies within the AR and VR space and a lot of the use cases. And so we have a terrific example of this from Porsche. They actually launched, the kind of classic see what I see so an expert can help me from afar AR glasses back in 2018, working with Aether to actually create the headsets. But we actually found out after COVID started that even though they launched these in 2018 and discovered, if our staff use these when they're trying to fix a car, that, it gives you a 40% improvement in repair speed. Fantastic, these productivity gains that we see with AR, kind of expert looking over your shoulder kind of thing. It's always double-digit productivity gains. So that's great news. But the reality was that people on the floor weren't actually using them because two main factors. One, kind of weird to put something on your face. We're not used to that. That put something on your face that has functionality other than correcting vision, right? The other thing is that if you're in a surrounding where there's other workers, and if you put these glasses on your head, you are implicitly letting everybody know that you don't know what you're doing and you had to ask for help. And so and it's very human to want to kind of hide that. so Porsche found that people were actually using these AR glasses much less than they were expecting. However, and this is where COVID really comes in, suddenly there is nobody else near you. The expert is far away. And if you want to fix that car quickly, you need to put the glasses on. And that was kind of really the impetus that people needed to really see, this really is a useful thing. And actually, it's not that bad to have somebody help me if I need help. And so with COVID, they found that the usage of these glasses increased by 300%. So that's really been the big thing that COVID has done. It's kind of gotten over the social and the human kind of people not so sure about this. And now they're like, okay, now we get it. And so I talked to Aether a few months ago, and they said, since the beginning of COVID, they're busy. They're busy. Everybody wants to have some kind of solution like this for their floor. And it's really manufacturing plants, logistics, large utilities, places where there are complicated mechanical things that need to be done. And if you get it wrong, it's expensive and potentially very problematic. So those are the kinds of situations that have really been going in for these kinds of glasses. Now, now something like this runs just over 5G. Sorry, runs over Wi-Fi. So this is not a particular 5G use case. But if we look at this example from Telstra in Australia, working with Taylor Construction, this is a 5G use case that actually starts to show the benefit of getting 5G in here. And so so of course, one of the industries that has really embraced the use of virtual reality as part of just their standard work practice is architectural and building firms, because the ability to actually walk through a building design before anything is actually built and to make corrections in the early stages. The architect Frank Lloyd Wright has a famous saying, it's far easier to make a correction with an eraser than a sledgehammer. So yay, let's actually walk through these building designs before they're actually built. However, the building design files, basic, three-dimensional blueprints, as it were, they are such gigantic files that until now, you could really only view those with a headset that was wired to a really grunty computer that is actually producing all of the compute power for this. So what Telstra has done is, by dropping a 5G base station at a construction site, and then taking a HoloLens, which is not natively 5G, just be completely clear here, but attaching a 5G modem on it, and that actually adds 40 milliseconds of latency. I don't want to get to telecommunications here on you, but that that's a lot of latency. So this is not a low latency use case, but this is a high bandwidth use case. So with the 5G module on a HoloLens, they can actually render that building construction plan around you on the actual building site. And that, if you watch the testimonials from the Taylor people on YouTube, they're practically in tears with how much money and time this saves them. Because no matter how well you think you have imagined how this building is going to integrate to the site it's going to be built on, it's not until you actually see it that you realize, oh, okay, that staircase is running into that hillside, or whatever. And things can be fixed while they still are in the pixel stage as opposed to the cinder block stage. So so for enterprise, and as Sean really covered in his presentation, enterprise is, they see the value, they're actually running with these implementations. The question and the adoption, there's no question. People are seeing the value and people are adopting both AR and VR in the enterprise world. However, on the consumer side, there's a little bit more of a lag. For AR and VR, and we haven't even talked about training, so we'll talk about that afterwards in the panel. For AR and VR, as I said, for enterprise, it's the value is very clear, but for consumer, most VR, yay, we've got Oculus, all kinds of great use cases there. Fitness, again, we can talk about those in the chat if anyone's interested. But augmented reality for consumer. Now, there's a lot of that in terms of smartphone-based. So web-based or app-based AR in a smartphone. And so here's an example that we at Nokia did with the phone company STC in Saudi Arabia. We created a visual mapping and real-time guide for Hajj at Mecca. So, if you're, it's millions of people who are visiting, and where's a water fountain? Where's the bathroom? To really solve these basic questions and to guide you visually through the space. So this kind of visual location-based interaction with AR is being built on smartphones today. Another use case for smartphone-based AR for consumers is this example called C-Signal from Bad VR. They're based in Los Angeles. And what they do is they give a visualization of the strength of the signal that you are getting right now, whether it's a Wi-Fi signal or a 2G or a 3G or a 4G signal. And I love this interface because it's just so intuitive. You really don't need me to explain that if you want to improve your Wi-Fi signal, you just have to walk down this hall and stay on the right-hand side, and you're going to get to where the green bars are, and your signal will improve. So really, kind of useful guides, or Samsung has an AR guide where you can find visually find your keys in the living room or, wherever, because if you've got the little Samsung smart key fob on your keys. So these kinds of use cases start to suggest the power of augmented reality is the ability to make the invisible visible, whether it's the path to the water fountain or where do I go to get the best possible signal in the room that I'm in right now? Or, where are my keys anyway? There's real value in that. And just by saying make the invisible visible, many people can just instantly think of, 29 different use cases in ways that, oh yeah, I can see how this could be integrated with my life with augmented reality. For example, I'm sitting here with this lovely chair and this blue wall, but actually I'm in a corner of my kitchen. And so it would be fantastic if I have teenage sons, they quite often leave the oven on after they make something in the oven. If I could just look over and my AR glasses could tell me, just instantly flashing up, here's the temperature of the oven right now. I would know, oh, okay, then, I need to go over there and turn off the oven. That's the kind of really simple kind of use case that ultimately will be super useful and will be the kind of thing that will be integrated with our daily life, and we're just not even going to think twice about it. But when we think about how do we move from the AR, that's consumer AR, that's based on with taking working on 4G, working with a smartphone as the viewing device. If there's any mapping component, like we saw in the Saudi example that I gave you, then it's two-dimensional. And content are things like I showed you, or lots of marketing things, pointing your camera at a QR code or at, a bag of Cheetos, and now Chesto Cheeto comes to life and sings you a song, or Pokemon Go, which uses a lot of location. It's the AR is not such a big feature of the initial iteration of that, but anyway, it's still in the category. But all of this is great, but these do tend to be one-off experiences. And once you know where the water fountain is, you're not going to be using that guide a second time. And so where is the sustainable, the recurring kind of business with an application with augmented reality for consumers? Well, as I said, that really comes with 5G, because that enables the head-mounted displays, the HMDs, the glasses. And why 5G? Well, because in order for the glasses to look just like regular eyeglasses and to have a long battery life, that's really key. You've got to take every bit of processing off of this device that you can and put it in the network. And it needs to be 5G so that you can connect the functionality and bring it into a real-time experience with the person who's wearing the glasses. And the mapping is now improving into three-dimensional mapping. And once we have this, what this actually gives us in terms of content is, of course, the ability to integrate content visually with the three-dimensional world, physical world, as we move through it. Now, this is, really, I call this the spatial internet, which is, yes, distinct from the metaverse. The concept of the metaverse is more a virtual reality thing, but they are on the same continuum. HTC has been playing with prototypes of headsets that would allow you to either have a fully virtual experience or to give some varying amounts of transparency so that you can also see the physical world around you, and have moving into mixed reality, where the content is actually merging with the physical world that surrounds you at any given time. So these are different elements on ultimately a large spectrum. But the key about the spatial internet, what is really, really important, and this is where John Hanke, who's the CEO of Niantic, he's actually been a little bit negative about the metaverse. He says, no. The real power is when we are in the physical world and looking through our computing, no longer having our gaze dead end at a screen, but and having that be our experience with how we relate to computing. If instead we are looking through our computing through a headset, and the computing is now adapting to our context and our gaze, that reconnects us with the world and the people in the world around us, while also deepening and enriching our experience. And as we have here, this really simple example of walking through a grocery store and, hey, here's the discounts, or maybe you're lactose intolerant, and so it's showing you the best foods for you being lactose intolerant. But it's enhancing your experience with the physical world around you with information and entertainment. And notice, I'm not talking about the digital world and the real world. No, it's a distinction between the digital world and the physical world, because they are both real. And that's actually very important to keep in mind. But let me give you just a couple of quick use cases so we can get on to our discussion here. These are the kinds of things that some of the phone companies of the world who are working with the 5G element are working on bringing. So British Telecom, they're working on augmenting their sports broadcasts, both boxing and football with in America, that would be soccer, with two different elements here. One is using these head-mounted devices to then take the graphics that would appear on the screen and then blow them out and put them on the wall around the television. And then the other, much more spectacular use would be to have real-time rendering of holograms that matches the actual action that's happening in the boxing ring at the time, or actually on the football pitch. And so this is a 5G 20-month project that's running with the grant as from the UK government. I think this one still has about 6 months to go. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what this looks like when they're done. But in terms of one of the questions that I get quite often when I'm talking about this is people are like, yeah, well, Google Glass, they tried to go consumer and it was a total failure. And sure, they've been very successful with enterprise, because enterprise people will put something on their heads if they have to do their job. But in terms of getting consumers to wear glasses all day long, come on, give me a break. Well, this is where this patent that I'm showing you, I think, is going to be very, very important. It's true, Apple has never come right out and confirmed that they're working on AR, but we can see the patents that they're filing. And this is one of them. And it's allowing vision correction with augmented reality technology. Now, whether Apple's glasses actually do vision correction or not, I don't know. But frankly, I wear glasses. I can't put another thing on my head unless it corrects my vision. So that's kind of like, a base use case. However, if I am wearing something that technologically corrects my vision rather than fixed lenses, okay, I can see that's a benefit. If my prescription changes, then, I don't have to go out and get new glasses. But if we put that together with one of the things that Facebook is working on over in their reality labs, which is augmented audio, where, again, this is to use a head-mounted device. Obviously, these are lab prototypes here, that matches where you're looking, what your gaze is falling on, and then prioritizing the audio coming from that. So this guy on the left, he will have the audio, whatever the guy on the right is saying to him, that's what he's going to hear over the sound of the television in the background. But if he changes and looks at the television, then that audio would then be prioritized for him over whatever the guy sitting with him is saying. And so this kind of enhanced audio, okay, we put that together with the vision correction on the eyes, and now I've got the enhanced audio. And then if you look at Xiaomi's concept smart glasses that they've started talking about, they are actually using and they actually have a cable to a smartphone. So like I said, that chip splitting work is still going on, so we really don't have very many good examples of an HMD head-mounted device with computation actually in the network. But the interim step is to do the computation on a phone that's tethered to the glasses. So they've got two use cases here. That one is live translation. So giving you live subtitles of what the people around you are saying. Plus, they go the extra step of translation, both audio, as you've got here. So here you've the example, this is from one of their videos. So the example is, you're hearing somebody speak in Chinese, and then here's the English translation of that for you to read as a visual subtitle in your daily life. Or bringing the Google Translate with the camera kind of capability into the glasses as well. So here you are, you're looking at a menu that's in English, and it's translating it to Chinese for you. That's the color of the visual in the Xiaomi, and it's really hard to read, but those are Chinese characters overlaid on an English menu there. And so now we've got 4 use cases that are all about sensory enhancement, helping me see more clearly, helping me hear more clearly, giving me subtitles for the world around me, and giving me real-time translations. All of those are the kinds of things that you don't have to be a rocket scientist to understand that actually could be a good thing. And so I think it's these sensory enhancement use cases that are going to be what makes consumers actually start wearing head-mounted devices. And as you can see, this is back to the building blocks. All of the building blocks are on the table for this now. And, so I am one of the many who is looking with anticipation towards whatever Apple brings out next year. The rumors are that, Apple will be bringing something out. It will be very expensive. But I think it'll be a first step towards us seeing what kind of consumer sorts of functionalities are going to be there. And it won't be the thing that changes everything, but it's another step on the path. And, so my personal vision of this is by 2030, we will actually start to see a change from our main computing interface moving from being a smartphone to actually being a head-mounted device. But then the last question of this is, how do we actually interface with this? If we don't have a screen anymore, how do we tell our computing what we need? Well, here's another patent filed from Apple that looks at the front-facing cameras on these head-mounted devices. And then this is a picture from Nreal, another glasses manufacturer, showing that if you have front-facing cameras, you can actually understand where the hands of the user are. And if you're creating digital goods, then you can combine the digital goods that you've created, that's obviously not a real police car there, with the hand motions of the person in the real world. And that gives you the ability to do gesture-based menus and, of course, voice-based interaction. That's actually very well established now. And Microsoft partnered with Niantic to do a demonstration of exactly this back in March of this year for their developer conference, where this is Niantic CEO John Hanke again, using a modified HoloLens and with voice and gesture controls to play Pokemon Go out in a park. And voice and gesture controls with visible menus that you can interact with your actual hands. Suddenly we're in Iron Man territory. This is how we interact with Jarvis. And this is how we're going to be working with our computing going forward, no question. And so then here's an early example of Facebook with the Oculus Quest. They have pass-through video, and they opened up so you can get the video of the physical world around you while you're in the Quest. And it's grainy, it's black and white, but you can see the world around you in the headset. And over the summer, Facebook opened up the APIs to that pass-through video part of the Oculus to developers. And then just here's an early developer, just some guy in Austria, created a bit of a Guitar Hero type interaction with piano so that you know which key to press and how long to press it for to play the piano, with mixed reality content coming into a video interaction of the physical world around the wearer. And so this is the kind of thing we're going to be seeing a lot of, this sort of thing. And then, of course, visions of where this is going to go. This is the famous Magic Leap, envisioning of a city, kind of, very practical view of things like restaurant reviews and the weather and the traffic. But so this is, I think this is ultimately far more powerful than the fully digital metaverse, because the problem with anytime you're in virtual reality, it's wonderful. I spend a lot of time in virtual reality. I do all of my fitness in virtual reality, but you are disconnected from the physical world. And it's a bit like going to a movie in a movie theater. You've got this wonderful experience, but you have cut yourself off from the physical world in order to do that. You're in a big darkened room. And so that I think will have those kind of short-term, single-use, specific purpose use cases. But the one that we're going to be using in our daily life much more commonly is the mixed reality. Here is information and entertainment for me as I move through the physical world. It's just part of my daily life. And this example from this just developer out there called Voxel Guy kind of gives a hint of the kinds of things that are possible that are different and that we are not doing today. Because ultimately, all of this platform is going to unleash stuff we can't even imagine today. And that's going to be what's transformative. But as I said, this example here kind of gives a hint of like, oh, this is a new thing that could happen. So he's a guy who, he's a Unity developer, and he had already created a version of his living room for some other project. And one day he's vacuuming, and he's like, oh, this is so tedious. How can I make this more interesting? So he anchored his Unity version of his living room onto his actual living room. And then put on his VR headset, and then had his VR controller. He strapped that onto his vacuum cleaner. And then in the Unity version of his living room, he dropped gyros all over the floor. And so then as he's actually vacuuming his physical, actual living room, in the virtual reality version, which is what he's seeing, he's actually hoovering up all of these Euros that are, fake Euros, that are all over the floor. And that actually makes sure that he gets every single corner, every single nook and cranny. And then at the end, with the money that he had, earned, he then was able to, when he'd gotten the last Euro off the floor, so he knows he's done, then a little button appeared on his virtual desk there that he was able to hit with his virtual vacuum cleaner. And it gave him a reward. He was able to buy some kind of digital good. I kind of know what that is. It's like some kind of little spaceship or something. So what this is, it's the gamification of everyday tasks and everyday routine things that are dull and boring, but we have to do them. And so think about how many things that you have to do all the time that you could gamify, not only to make it more fun, but to make sure that you do it well. Brushing your teeth, getting your kids to brush their teeth, getting your kids to clean their room, walking the dog, follow the path of euros, and then you walk the dog for long enough, and um, uh, this to me suggests all kinds of possibilities, all kinds of brand tie-ins, all kinds of marketing possibilities. Anyway, I think this is the tip of a very large and very lucrative iceberg. But to wrap all this up so we can actually get to our discussion part of it, another part of the reason that I'm talking about all of this so much, even though it is still very much in kind of the science fiction and yeah, the building blocks are on the table, will they really get put together? Yes, because these companies are together investing billions and billions of dollars into specifically the head-mounted AR glasses concept. Apple, Microsoft, Google, Geo, Facebook, Niantic, Snap, and Amazon. And these are just the big guys. Facebook itself invested something on the order of between 10 and $25 billion in their virtual labs, in their reality labs this year alone. And all of these other companies are absolutely dedicated to making this happen. And so who actually hits it, who actually wins, I don't know. But the will is there, the money is there, and the brains are there. So yeah, this is gonna happen. And so famous quote from Bill Gates: "We always overestimate the change that will occur in the next 2 years and underestimate the change that will occur in the next 10. Don't let yourself be lulled into inaction." So even if you're not wearing, head-mounted displays that are showing you the strength of your Wi-Fi signal by this time in 2023, don't worry. It's all still happening, and you will be wearing glasses like that probably, well, before 2030 for sure. And just to kind of close here, this is just to remind you of how quickly things can turn once everything comes together. This is what mobile data looked like in the year 2000. This is what mobile data looked like in 2007, only 7 years later. And notice that I very specifically chose a Nokia and an Apple, because when the pivot comes, it happens fast, and the companies that are not prepared get left behind. We lost our handset business because we were not prepared. This was a moment that saw the shift. We built excellent telephones. Apple built an excellent computer that could go in your pocket. And we were still building telephones. And yeah, so when this shift to head-mounted displays happens, it will happen quickly. There will be a snowball effect, and some companies are going to win and some companies are going to lose. And hopefully the fact that you're here today means that you're paying attention to this now. So hopefully everybody in this call will actually be on the winning side. So thanks very much, and let's go back to the group.